Alright, welcome to P6 range card. I will now go over tasks and standards. Task: prepare a range card for a machine gun. Condition: you are a member of a platoon gun team at a defensive fighting position in a non-seaport environment. You have a tripod-mounted machine gun with a traverse and elevation mechanism. The grader will then identify the primary sectors of fire with recognizable targets and the secondary sector of fire with recognizable targets. Standard: complete the marginal information, sketch the primary sector of fire, develop the sketch for the primary sector of fire, and record the weapon system data. Sketch the secondary sector of fire, label the dead space, and record the position of the weapon system. All directions/deflections must be accurate within 54 mils. All ranges with no more than 20% margin of error. Correctly perform all tasks within 20 minutes.
Alright, so first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to fill out my admin data up top. I'm in first squad, first platoon of ACO. The next thing I'm going to do, I'm going to figure out where my north seeking arrow is. So I'm just going to grab my compass out. So I can see it's facing from my position slightly back and to the left. So I'll draw a north seeking arrow on here. Alright, the next thing I want to do is I can see my primary zone. So I'm just going to draw two lines on here, bold lines. And then I'm going to put a dashed line for my secondary zone. So alright, so I have my sectors figured out. Next thing I want to do is I want to figure out where my maximum engagement line is so I can see out about 200 meters. So each circle on here is going to represent 50 meters because the distance out I cannot see greater than 450 meters, so each circle will equal 50 meters. Alright, so 200 meters, so first 50, 100, 150, 200. So I'm going to draw a line here. I'm going to write MEL on it for maximum engagement line. It's also in my secondary zone. Alright. Next thing I want to do is I'm going to fill out some of this data section. This is my primary position, so I'm going to write primary. And also I want to figure out where my grid, my 8-digit grid is at, so I'm going to grab out my map. I've already identified it, so I just need to figure out the grid to it. Our designator 17 Sierra Papa uniform. 7980 8780. Alright, I can put my map away for now. Next thing I'm going to do, I'm going to put my date, the date on there. And time. Today is the 13th of September 2023 and the time is 12:10. My weapon system, I'm going to put what that is. In this case it's a M240 Lima. If I'm not unsure of what it is, I could just check on the side of the weapon system itself. Alright, for this instance we're doing a final protective line. So in order to show that on the actual sketch itself, we're going to draw a bold line. And we're going to have breaks in that bold line if there's any dead space. In this case there's no dead space out there, so I'm just going to put it bold up to the 200 meters. I'm also going to draw a line with two hash marks indicating it's a M240 or a medium machine gun. The next thing I want to do is I want to get my azimuths for my primary and secondary fire. So I'm going to get behind the gun, not too close to it so the metal doesn't interfere with the compass itself. Alright, so we have 140 degrees. I'm just going to annotate that up at the top here. and 115 degrees for our left limits. And then for our secondary, it's about 70 degrees. Alright, so the next thing I want to do is I'm going to include any dead space on here. So anything past 200 meters I cannot see, so I'm just going to put hash marks on here to indicate dead space. Same with our secondary zone. And then for our EIB standard, we need to put dead space in between the primary and secondary sector. So I'm just going to put hash marks in between that as well. Alright, the next thing I want to do is I want to identify any targets out in my primary sector. I can see one right in front of me. And for these, I'm going to do a range estimation. So I'm going to record that in here. Alright, so for your number one, you're always going to have it as your FPL or your primary direction of fire. So this is our FPL, so I'm going to label it as 1. And it said it goes out to 200 meters. Our ammo is 7.62, and it's our FPL. For our elevation for this, we're going to use a traverse and elevation. So I'm going to put my reticle on my sector of fire, and then I'm going to read the mils on the T&E, sort of traverse and elevation on the tripod. Alright, so for the deflection we have roughly it's about 160. So I'm just going to line these lines up here with these lines on the side to get an accurate measurement. So our deflection is 160 mils. We're going to label that with a lowercase m with a line through it that designates mils. And then for our elevation, it's about 275. So same there, 275 mils. Alright, so the next thing is I see my target out there. In this case, it's just the silhouette. So I'm just going to draw it roughly on here where these circles are. So I'm going to estimate it's about 100 meters out. So I see this line here. This is 50 meters, 100 meters, so I'm going to draw it roughly on the 100 meter mark. Just draw what it looks like. And in this case, I'm going to put a little 2 with a circle over it so I can put its information down here. Alright, so for here, I'm going to go ahead and put my reticle on it again. And then I'm going to read my mils again. So it's about 570 for the deflection. Elevation, 286. We said it was about 100 meters out. Our ammo is 7.62. And description, I'm just going to put that as a silhouette. Alright, so I've identified all my targets within my primary sector. Next I'm going to go to my secondary sector. I can see 2 targets. I'm going to estimate that they're both about 50 meters out. So I'll draw two silhouettes on this 50 meter spot here in the secondary zone. There's not a lot of room here to do it. And then for these targets, you're going to write over the target the range out at which they are. So in this case they're both 50 meters. And after that, that's it for for this. Now it's ready to get turned in.